Welcome in, everyone. I know it's been a hot minute. It's always a hot minute every time I stream. But we may finish Baxter's DLC today, which means we gotta find a new game after this, which I think might be Growing Up. I have a fondness for that game that I have never finished. I think I finished it once. But we may or may not finish it depending on what time Gil gets home. So, here we go. Choose an epilogue. Here you can choose which epilogue to play. Note you can only play one and then the game will end. Enjoy. Well, we're doing Baxter because we did his stuff. Avi. They be trying to copy. In between. Oh, I forgot I looked like this. Should we go with long hair? I don't know. What's a fuckboy hair? I feel like Baxter broke me after he broke up with me. Is this fuckboyish enough? Oh no, mullet? Should we get a mullet? Smooth one, choppy one, curled one, flowy one, short one, medium. Should we get a mullet? I feel like we should fuck it up with a mullet, honestly. We can keep everything else the same. We should get rid of our glasses. Wear contacts now. Keep our earrings. Thick lips. Let's see. Can we get tattoos? I feel like we'd get a tattoo. What kind of tattoo should we get? Should we get a lower back tattoo? Should we get a tramp stamp? Tramp stamp it up. Love that. Nails short. Nail color black. We've been emo since day one. Nose ring. No, we don't need a nose ring. We don't need a nose ring. Okay, we're done. My feelings for Cove? Why does that matter? Begin step 4 for fondness. Yeah, we're done. I don't care what this man looks like. Surprise me. Neither. We're ready. Oh, wait, hold on, no. At Crush? Are we ready to begin the net Crush? No, we're in love with this man. This man wrecked us. Okay. Which initiative level would you like Baxter to have for step 4? High? High initiative? I don't know. I don't know what any of this means anymore. And so your days grow up and the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. Growing up and the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you'd moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with Cove and his fish. Fuck Cove. We lived with a pet. We have a singular pet. And you worked at a fine company, had a business of your own, had multiple ways of earning income. We're still focused on pursuing education. Yeah, higher education. We're going to law school. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. Good for them. But your mom's and Cove's father still lived in the same street as they had all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And they're gonna die there, probably. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends. Though, of course, things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city past Sunset Bird. Was as busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. That's my guy. That's my friend. I was about to say that's my boo, but that's not my boo. The person who left the town and you behind. You called and texted. Baxter never answered. You never even tried to make him talk to you. Baxter obviously wasn't interested. We're desperate. We're desperate. But you weren't thought about it anymore. It still hurt. You remembered you were brought down. But you just didn't feel strongly about him anymore, for better or for worse. But you looked back on those summer days fondly now. No, my feelings are still hurt. I feel deeply. I feel deeply for this man. No matter how much time passed, your heart clenched every time something reminded you of Baxter. It seemed your thoughts and feelings would go... sorry. I said we were going to law school, and I remember what we looked like. Imagine your lawyer showing up to defend you in court, and they have a fucking mullet. I don't think I would be okay. I think I'd be like, can I have a new lawyer, please? I would like to request a new lawyer. It seemed your thoughts and feelings would go unheeded for him, but by him for the rest of your life. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. I don't care about Cove. Cove does not cross my mind. Of course, he was still a very important person in your life, in your heart. Cove was a friend you could count on. Cove was your absolute most cherished friend. Cove was your family, and he always would be. He's a friend I can count on. Luckily, things worked out for the two of you. You still live pretty close by. Unfortunately, you and Cove lived in different locations. Yeah, I don't want to live near this man. He truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating loving and supporting relationships with his family and friends. His personality had changed, becoming more reserved, though not at all unkind. Cove was a gentle, loyal, considerate man who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it made perfect sense to you based on his interest. Cove got a 2-year degree. Good for him. After that, he began working full-time at Orca, helping educate the public on ocean conservation and participating in shore restoration efforts. As an adult, Cole was able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. Good for him. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove he always was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. Of course, growth and change didn't only occur for the people you knew most directly, it happened to everyone. And a particularly exciting bit of news came in the form of an engagement announcement. Who got engaged? Miranda's older brother Jude was proposed to by his longtime boyfriend Scott Adam. Why he got 2 first names? That guy known as Grant. Learning his actual name after all these years was almost as incredible as finding out that 2 were getting married. After being long distance for a few years, Scott had moved to California to get a place with Jude. You'd even met him in person more than once when visiting Randy and Terry. Both men in the couple were welcoming whenever you'd come around. They loved to look out for Miranda and her little friends. Not her little friends. They were in their 30s, so someone barely in their double decades was basically still a kid. But you counted on them as friends of your own. It was like having 2 big brothers. You knew them distantly, though. You know what? It was like having 2 big brothers. Why not have extra siblings? I say as I was like, Cove is not family. They sent you a very official letter of invitation to their special day through the mail. Terry and Randy were obviously guests as well. Though it was something of a surprise when Cove ended up on the list. That is a surprise. He didn't have a personal relationship with either groom. Hi, welcome in. Thank you for joining me. We're just playing, we're starting to finish up Our Life Beginning in All Ways. We're doing Baxter's DLC, if you were curious. But Cove had attended many Eckert events throughout his life, plus Jude and Scott weren't harsh enough to leave one member of the usual gang out. Now the wedding was fast approaching. It was set to be a fantastic day with friends, family, and the celebration of bonds that brought you all together. Unfortunately, making that plan a reality was easier said than done. The happy couple ended up in a need of some help. A lot of it. You squinted into the afternoon sun on a quiet suburb street, one bag slung over your shoulder and a suitcase in hand. You arrived at the Adam Eckert household, your place of residence for the next week. That just seemed odd. Odd placement. It had been weeks since you started making plans to come down for the wedding. You weren't going to miss it. However, it was a one-day affair, and coming this far in advance was a last-minute request. Jude, Scott, Terry, Miranda, and the rest of the Eckert clan had been putting on the wedding entirely themselves. Ooh, that's a lot of work. They managed the DIY process as best they could over a few months. But it turned out arranging a marriage ceremony and reception was not on the same level as birthday parties, graduation celebrations, and family reunions. Have you ever tried to put a family reunion together? That seems so stressful, because how much family do you invite? How many family? And whose side of the family? Because there's like your mom's side of the family and then your dad's side of the family. And then if your parents have split up and they have married other people, do you invite that family? Like, that's a lot. Anyway, that's not what this is about. The day was nearly upon them. Things weren't finished and neither man wanted to choose the venue. With no way to magically conjure up more hours in a day, their solution was to have more hands on deck to finish prep work. That was where you came in and how you went from simply being a guest in attendance to joining the official party planning posse. You were glad to do it for them. They'd have come to your aid if you ever needed something. And at least it was a short trip, even if it took a while to make it. Too bad you had to come all a long way to do it, but that was unavoidable. Even if it took a while to make it, we're not that far away. Miranda was the first to come up to you, circling around from the other side of the vehicle. She was just beaming. You smiled right back, you waved, you hugged her from the side with your free hand. You held out your arms so she could hug you. Yes, hold out your arms so she could hug you. As much as you missed her, you had to dive into the car as soon as the van door opened at the pickup spot. This was your first chance to stand together face to face. Miranda squeezed herself against you, giggling with fresh excitement. It was like being a teen again. Oh, she's so cute. Oh my god. Oh, I can get that for you. She reached towards the suitcase as she spoke her intentions. You've gotta be exhausted. I'm tired, but I can handle my own bags. It's fine, I'm not even tired. Well, if you insist. That could be great, I'm so tired. You shook your head. You gratefully held it out for Miranda to take. Well, if you insist, girlfriend. I do. Last one out was Terry. He hopped from the driver's seat, ready for action. Let's get all this put away. It sounds like you want to pack me in a box or something. Not yet. We can't ship you back until the wedding's over. You chuckled, of course. You offered Terry a high five. You put a fist to his bump. What? You put up your fist to bump his. There we go. You went in for a hug. He grinned. Let's fist bump. He gave your hand a satisfying knock, full of vim and vigor. Time to bring the party inside, buds. He didn't need to say more. Miranda speed walked ahead, your suitcase in tow and her sun hat flapping from her firm, determined steps. She had the spare key to her brother's place. You all would have been stranded on the curb without her. Miranda got it all unlocked, opened the door, and gestured for the others to come on in. All three of you went inside. Mission accomplished. We've successfully dropped off Princeton. The reason you were crashing there was because Terry and Randy lived in a tiny city apartment while Scott and Jude had an entire house. The extra space and free accommodations were big reasons you were able to do this to begin with. If you had to get a hotel, the plan would have been shot. The downside of living in a tourist-heavy area and of getting married during the most popular season, but it worked out and that's what mattered. Their home was a chill and comfortable-looking place, as long as you imagined what it was like without the absolute mess everywhere. The living room had obviously been co-opted into the base of operations for their crafting endeavors. Every inch of countertop and even flat enough cushions were piled high with supplies. Thanks for coming to get me. It's good to be here. Now what? What's my first assignment? You nodded along, you stood there unsure. It's good to be here. It's good to have you here. You can relax or unpack anything. Like today, we're gonna meet up with Jude and Scott for dinner at the seafood restaurant. Why was that a mouthful for me? Off to the side, Terry's arms folded with mock seriousness. Technically, it's a business meeting to make the hiring official, but who cares? Not me, definitely not Jude, and Scott does not care, but in opposite way, he's gonna be waiting for us. Besides, we're all part of the party planning group, so we've got to meet the MVP. Oh yeah? They found someone to plan the wedding? Uh-huh. I still don't know how much he can do this late, but it's probably better to have somebody who knows what they're doing around. Exactly, Randy. It's gonna come together great. I hope so. Miranda sighed wearily. While you started your career on the committee approximately 5 minutes ago, it had already been a long journey for the rest of the crew. Wear and tear and frayed nerves were to be expected. However, your presence had lifted their spirits. Miranda perked up as she spoke again. I'll show you which room is yours, Princeton. Thanks. She escorted you upstairs. This is a nice room. I hate when pillows get chopped. Why do they get chopped? For what reason do they need to be chopped? It's just gonna make it weird. Terry blinked. Terry lingered behind. He assumed you didn't need two people overseeing your unpacking. This is a first. This is a first for him. Because in our youth, Terry would have been right there with us. You can use the bathroom right across the hall for showers and everything. I'll give you some privacy, but you can always come downstairs if you wanna. See you soon. Bye. It was a relief to not rush out the door. You popped open the suitcase and began to settle in. You were also sure to text family and friends to let them know you'd made it there safely. After all that, you were able to rest. Your mind calmed and slowly it sunk in that you were actually back in the area. You were home. Kind of. In one direction up the highway was Prism Vista City, and the other, Sunset Bird. That was the most unusual thing. You were in either of those locations, but in a strange place in between. As the sun began to set, a knock landed against the door. Terry called through. Dinner time. Okay, be right there. You got your phone off the charger, a few other things, and joined up with Terry in the hall. Then you both linked with Randy on the first floor. Once more, the three of you piled into Terry's van. He pulled out of the driveway with great haste. You were bound for another long-awaited reunion. It took about 20 minutes to reach the restaurant. The place had to be popular since the only open space was at the very end of the lot. You leisurely exited the vehicle and stretched in the warm air. Terry and Miranda ambled over, in no rush, until you glanced towards the building. Because they were there, right in the front, the curly-haired Jude and the bespectacled Scott. Neither of them were easy to miss on their own, and together they were unmistakable. Hey, Jude, dude. Hi, Grant. Hi. Miranda took Terry's arm, dragging him across the tarmac. Whoa. You had to break into a light jog to not be left in the dust. The couple of the hour amicably greeted your little group. Jude Eckert and Scott Adam. Whoa. I never thought I would ever see them. Turns out you have to do Baxter's DLC to see these two. Interesting. Jude looks so... They both look so interesting. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way at all. But Jude definitely looks like Miranda. They definitely look like siblings. Because they are. Miranda's one and only brother was living the typical California software development dream. I don't know about that dream. Jude's partner, Scott, was easily able to transfer his physical therapist career to a new state when he moved. Both of them needed to take time completely off of their packed schedules in the lead up to the wedding. Miranda's workload was almost non-existent already. She was normally a teacher's assistant while continuing her education. School was out for her students and herself. Oh, that's nice. Good for her. I was going to be like, she's a teacher? But no, she's a teacher's assistant. It was like, teachers do work during the summer. Like, at school, too. They're not fully out for the summer. It was a bit more awkward for Terry, whose lifeguard services were in high demand during that season. To be a lifeguard. I'm not saying that, like, in a good way. I would not want to be a lifeguard. I couldn't be a lifeguard. Don't put me in charge of saving kids' lives like that. But the whole team was committed to getting things done no matter what. Not the voice. I don't know if I can do that. You made it. No, I can't. He's just gonna get my voice. That was sort of meant for everyone, but mainly Jude was talking about you. Scott made the special attention even more transparent. He sounds like Cove. So nice seeing you, Princeton. They're both getting my voice. Only the main characters don't get my voice. They are the main characters for this. Hi, I missed you. Hello, Jude and Scott. Congratulations on your almost wedding. Congratulations. Give them a wave. Give them two high fives. Hit them with the dual finger guns. They responded with laughter and friendly waves. Scott's enthusiastic flail looked all the more frantic compared to Jude's single, relaxed arc. And hello, Terry and Miranda. Scott finally addressed the other people there. Hi again. What are you doing? I thought you had a table. Her big brother answered with a carefree or perhaps careless smile. The other guy's holding it down for us. Not I'm holding it down. What? Jude, you left your new wedding planner by himself in the restaurant? For who knows how long? Yeah. Miranda's gaze was withering. As sweet as she normally was, her siblings could test her patience like nobody else. But Jude's fiance came in with an equally unapologetic defense. He didn't mind. We had to be there. We had to be here to meet you. Besides, none of the real planning is happening today. It won't start until tomorrow anyway. We're not missing anything. It's kind of awkward for the planner, though. Well, let's give him some company. Oh, it's this setup. I remember this. This is from the business deal with Derek. Yes, yes. The meetup moved inside as everyone filtered into the fancy restaurant. Jude signaled to the host and got a nod, recognized as someone who'd already been seated, so your group passed on by to the seating area. Jude and Scott had already taken their place as the leaders of the squad, guiding the rest of you to the right place. Terry Terry remained hot on their heels while Miranda kept close to him. That left you bringing up the rear. Threading through the white cloth furniture, you noticed how most of them had room for 2 or 4 people. Your party would be 6 in number, counting the planner. You had to be situated on the far end of the room because of that. The others came to a stop directly in front of the window with a glorious view of the sun setting over the ocean. That must be the spot. You craned your neck to see over the small crowd of people, and you managed to catch a glimpse of the table. Oh, look how handsome he looks. I fucking hate him. I can't believe he broke up with me when we were teenagers. He's an asshole. A young man was already seated, his legs crossed primly, his chin resting ever so delicately against a hand. Swept hair and a tailored suit spoke of a high level of care and attention to details. In the reddish light of evening, his brown eyes shone like rich pools of dark honey, and on his neck was a distinct beauty mark, a living portrait of class. That was the wedding planner. It was a Baxter Ward. There was no way on earth that was who you thought it was, and the person who broke your heart. Did you guys hear that? Am I delusional? I heard something. The person who broke your heart, he seemed super professional. You wondered... Oh my god! Gil's home. What time is it? Why are you home so early? Hold on.
I got out early.
Guys, BRB. I'm so sorry about that. I did not know he was coming home early, and he didn't tell me. Um, it's going to be a short stream. I'm so sorry. I don't know when I'll stream again either. Hold on, let me go get my planner. Actually, I might stream Sunday. Because he usually does stuff on Sunday. So yeah, I'll stream Sunday. But let's finish this up. This little thing up. Sorry about screaming, also. He seemed super professional. You wondered who he was. What a mysterious stunner. Then you glanced at the others again, not too interested in the stranger. This man has been on my mind for years. Of course I know it's Baxter. Here we are. This is everybody we've got. My sister, her boyfriend, and her friend. Baxter's focus shifted away from the ocean views to acknowledge his client. Seeing the new company, his already heavily lidded eyes narrowed further. The softness in his smile pinched. Of course. You were that delightful older brother of Miranda's. Why wouldn't you be? The vague comment didn't pass Jude for a second. He was incredulous in an instant. What? You know Miranda? Well. No elaboration. He brushed it off with an actual brush through his hair. But Terry caught on the implication and chimed in. Randy? You recognize this guy? She faltered in a similar way, unable to commit to denying, but not able to confirm either. You couldn't see the faces of your friends. They huddled together to discuss with Miranda in a way that gave you a clear view of Baxter. He was demurely scrutinizing the reactions, tapping a finger against his cheek and gauging what to do next. Miranda, you know him, so do you, Terry? He's Baxter. Baxter, you don't wear only black and white anymore. Not me. Not me knowing this, guys. I thought you weren't coming back, you whispered. Oh, well, don't say that. Baxter? I remember you. The words could form in your tight throat. I'm about to comment on this man's attire. Baxter's palm cracked against the tabletop. He abruptly stood, almost knocking the chair over. It was entirely out of place with the restrained countenance you'd always known Baxter to maintain. At his full height, you searched past the others and finally saw the last person attending this meeting. You. Miranda gasped. Terry shouted. Baxter? Baxter is his name. Yep. How do you know this dude? The pointed question was shot your way. He corrected himself, lifting a hand to assure you it was fine to forget it. How do you know my little sister? Jude newly directed the interrogation towards who he considered to be the real problem. Baxter stared into your face. He breathed deeply, unsteadily. You stood rooted in place. You unconsciously stepped forward. You instinctively stepped back. You turned to leave. What if I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm gonna go. You stood in place. I don't know. I'm between these three. I'm gonna stand rooted in place. Oh, why his eyes narrow? It became disconcertingly quiet after the initial explosive reaction. The sounds of other guests chatting over their meals, the clinking of silverware, servers bustling about, it all vanished. Were other people even still in the room? It was impossible to tell. You couldn't even move to check. Then the moment passed. Not a sly-ass smile. Oh. If I had dated this man and he smiled at me like that after he broke up with me, and it's been years, I'd probably want to punch him. I probably wouldn't punch him, but I probably want to punch him. Like, don't even look at me. Baxter grinned wide and ran his hands down the silky edges of his jacket to smooth it out. A familiar gesture for calming his nerves. Shut up. As you might vaguely remember, my name is Baxter Ward. With a casual flip of his wrist, Baxter gave a brief account of your shared history. 5 years ago, I stayed in Sunset Bird for a summer vacation during a semester off in college. We spent a bit of time together then. By we, I mean the three of you, along with the other. Cove was his name, I believe. Now, in the hopes of starting off on the right foot, let me apologize for my younger self. I was incredibly rude in how we ultimately parted ways. I understand entirely if this is awkward. Just know that I'm open to any ideas of how to accommodate working together. I'm fully committed to assuring that Mr. Eckert and Mr. Adam have a wonderful wedding. That is the only reason I'm here. You clocked what Baxter was doing immediately. He was placing distance, making this as impersonal as possible. Not a hint of warmth of familiarity could be seen in his sharp features. Even if he was apologizing for what he did, it was as a professional courtesy. Baxter Ward had magically reappeared in front of you after 5 years, and he was still completely unreachable. It was certainly a revelation for the betrothed. Every person they enlisted to help with the wedding were part of some past social group. Is there a problem with this? Terry, Miranda, Princeton? They attempted to prompt a response from all of you. Oh wait, do they know how he broke my heart? Do they know? The other normally happy couple in the group shared uneasy glances. It's not like Baxter did anything to me, but... Well, it's nice of you to say it, though. Their former friendship with Baxter had been tentative. Whether they could accept him or not came down to the one who'd vouched for him the most originally, and the one who had the hardest time being near him now. It's alright, don't worry about me. All that matters is the wedding goes well. You shifted uncomfortably, you didn't want to be around him, but couldn't ruin this. You nodded weakly. You said nothing. You did nothing. You couldn't give an acknowledgement. You know what? All that matters is the wedding goes well. I appreciate that. You didn't doubt how grateful he was to let bygones be bygones, even if his smile couldn't reach his eyes. Terry and Randy brightened properly, and that had the domino effect of putting relieved smiles on the faces of Jude and Scott as well. The mood was salvaged. Here. Baxter coolly moved the conversation along. The sooner the topic had nothing to do with his personal life, the better. I've got business cards for you. It has ways to contact me. Email, phone, the usual. Baxter didn't attempt to pass them out directly. Instead, he delicately placed a stack of cards on the table. Okay, don't be rude. Pass them out. They were such a stark white, the fancy cloth that rested on looked dingy. Sleek black cursive was printed across the front, very formal. Next, Baxter retrieved a sleek black phone from his pocket. Black and white cards and a black phone. It could be a coincidence. These colors... Those color choices normally express a lack of interest in displaying any personality, especially with businessmen. Yet a part of you wondered if it was a reference to the unique way he utilized those shades in the past. If possible, I could use your numbers. That will be useful for keeping everyone informed. There's a group chat of the wedding planning. I won't text you privately. You got it, boss. For the second time with Terry, and for the first with Miranda, numbers were exchanged with Baxter. Thank you. You told him your number, you shared it reluctantly. You should already have my number, it hasn't changed. Why would this man keep your number after he broke up with you? Be for real. Be fucking for real. I'm not gonna say that, but that was so funny. I'll just tell him my number. We're gonna pretend that this man didn't hurt us. That was fine. He tapped away at the screen as you listed off the sequence before returning the phone into his side pocket. Thank you for your cooperation. It's settled. One final black and white object appeared from Baxter's pocket, his wallet, which held a green $10 bill, which he put next to his business cards. Please use this for my coffee. I'll take my leave. Closing his eyes, Jude ruffled his mop of curly hair. Sorry you can't stay. It's cool. No one mentioned why he wasn't a welcome figure at dinner. Baxter smiled at the discretion. We've met. He tugged at his collar over that statement. Exchange numbers, and the first official planning meeting was arranged before the others arrived. I'll leave you to catch up and discuss next steps on your own terms. I will see some, or perhaps all of you soon. Have a nice evening. After a polite incline of his head, Baxter slipped out of the corner through a gap in the crowd. In only a matter of seconds, he was gone. Again. You almost could have believed you hallucinated the entire encounter. The floral scent that lingered behind you was in your mind. That money could have come from anywhere. Maybe Mr. Holden would have been nearby. What? That was easier to wrap your head around than the actual reality, except for the piece of undeniable proof. He left his business cards. As it said, printed in ink, Baxter Ward, wedding planner, was a real entity. Miranda and Terry both took one each for future reference or idle curiosity. You eventually deleted his number. You kept his numbers saved even after 5 years. Yes. Did he have a new number those days? You'd peer down on the little piece of cardstock. You picked it up. It was something of his. You took the card to check the number. It would be rude not to take what he gave, so you did. You left the last card unclaimed. You took the card to check I'm checking the number. Your friends remained solemnly silent. You must have had a lot of your mind, and they were right. However, Scott had his own way of being well-meaning, a much louder way. I knew it was too good to be true to find someone who would do this on such short notice. It was odd, in my opinion. It's okay to say so. Did he bully you? Of all the conclusions Scott could have come to, that was the option you hadn't been prepared for. Neither had anyone else. Terry snorted at the concept of Baxter being a bully. He is a bully. He bullied my heart. He clapped his hands over his face, the business card covering one eye. This was serious, and he couldn't be laughing. Terry and Miranda remembered how Baxter dumped you after one season and never talked to any of you again. And they knew how you felt about that. They were there. They saw what you went through in his wake firsthand. But Jude and Scott clearly didn't grasp the circumstances. Randy could keep things private. You tell them now, it's good for everyone to be aware of the whole story. There was no avoiding the awkward conversation at that point. They were your friends, you could be honest. You didn't want to rehash it. It was too hard to explain. Girls, tell them the whole story. He wasn't my bully. He's my ex. Baxter dumped me. I dated him one summer, and then he cut contact. We dated until Baxter ended it, but he's not anything to me anymore. I cared about Baxter, but he broke up with me. He refused to even speak again. He was merely a suitor for a season. In other words, a guy who left me. You know what? Use his words. Use his words. Baxter's the one who got away. I wanted to stay together, but he didn't. I hate that phrase, the one who got away. Like, no, they weren't. Have some self-respect. He was merely a suitor for a season. That's what he meant by incredibly rude? He dropped you? Princeton, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be treated like that. Thank you. They were great guys. It was reassuring to know they were on your side, and it made you glad you could be there for them, too. Jude and Scott deserved the best wedding physically possible. Those mixed-up thoughts from Baxter and past interactions and the present circumstances brought one particular memory to the surface of your mind. You couldn't forget it, that scathing line he'd fed to you as part of his rationalization for shutting you out cold. You admitted how Baxter thought their relationship wouldn't last. You kept that a secret. That working relationship didn't need further strain. Why would I tell them that? You should focus on the wedding, though. Maybe I tell Miranda and Terry, but not them. What happened in the past doesn't mean you have to put your plans aside. You sure? Yeah, I'm here to help. Just let me know how. He hesitated. Jude put a hand on his shoulder, and Scott was able to accept your words. Then that's what I'll do. So before you made it, me, Jude, and Baxter decided to meet up tomorrow morning. We have an appointment at his office all penciled in. I'm coming. I'm coming to this appointment. You can't make me not come. I'd like for you to be there too if you can. Good, because I was coming either way. Tomorrow morning? Yeah, Mr. Ward recommended it. That way there'd be as much time as possible afterwards to make what was planned happen. Sorry to spring it on you. It was Baxter's idea? Yep, he's got a point. Not like we've got time to lose. How would that go? You had to wonder. What happened last time you tried to do something early with Baxter appeared clear as morning sky in your mind's eye. Of course, that was a long time ago.
Okay, we'll be there.
Aye, aye. Right, that's fine with me. It was a special moment to people who mattered to you. It was a point of pride to be one small part of it. And then Miranda kindly pointed out how this get-together was in a restaurant and it could still be used for its intended purpose. It was a much appreciated suggestion. You spent a few minutes focused entirely on which delicious meal to have. No stakes, no pressure. The waiter returned, each person put in a request for dinner, and that was it. Menus were taken away, and you only needed to wait. In the relative privacy of the back corner table, Terry solidly dropped his fist onto the table as if calling a meeting. Baxter wasn't wearing black and white. I never thought I'd see the day. Baxter is a wedding planner? Miranda blurted out of her non sequitur with equal amazement. It makes sense he ended up as an event planner. It doesn't look right, and he doesn't look right in other colors. It's so wrong. I wouldn't have guessed that considering his own way of managing relationships, you muttered. Eat him up. Eat him up. He had to let it go sometime, Terry. You're not along with him. You stared silently at the table. Damn, a grown man who would have dropped dead in this restaurant if you said that 5 minutes ago. He got a playful nudge on the shoulder courtesy of his girlfriend. Well, anyway, I'm so happy it's almost your wedding. Starting shy and building up more cheer, Miranda attempted to express her happiness with her big brother and soon-to-be husband. It's so great. Thanks, Randy. Oh, thank you, Miranda. That's right. This is time to celebrate. Congrats, my man, another man. Even though the final destination was mainly trials away, it was still shining on the horizon. You can make it there. You were certain of it. Congratulations again. Cheers to the couple. Cheers to the couple. The conversation was abuzz with excitement for the event to come. For now, anything sounded possible. Food soon arrived, and the topic switched again. You caught up on how things were going with each other overall, how your trip went, and all things besides the opaque man who had left early. Being surrounded by friends was exactly what you needed, even if you never could have guessed why when you first got back. When the meal was over, goodbyes were exchanged. Terry and Miranda had to go back to the apartment while Jude and Scott were going to take you to their house. The party planning committee broke into 2 teams. After Terry was talked out of giving special code names to the groups, with the promise of reuniting earlier the next day. Tomorrow morning, the work would officially begin. And I'm going to save it here and call it a stream. I'm so sorry I'm ending this early, but we will probably be back on Sunday. I want to say Sunday. What time? I don't know. Maybe 8, maybe 7. I don't know. But sometime. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, week, month, year, and life. And I hope to see you in the next stream. Bye.